I promise I'm going to keep the presentation short to have a better discussion afterwards. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's a pleasure to have this afternoon with you guys here. My topic, very interesting one. We touched it already with some questions. The current online distribution landscape and mergers, acquisitions, and business model development. So, which direction are we going? For this, in order to give us a bit of theoretic background here, I would like to show you what kind of different merger and acquisition scenarios we have. So, it's actually very simple, but I tried to make it with some graphs really understandable, and maybe you guys can help me in the second step to find some more companies in the online distribution world which maybe did one of these scenarios. So to kick off with the first one, it's the so-called maintain identity scenario, which means that a company buys another company or acquires, let's say acquiring another company, but they stay how they are. They keep both their identity, which would be, in the case of the company I work for the Priceline Group, it would be definitely the acquisition when Priceline bought Booking or Agoda or OpenTable or Kayak. All these companies are still in their identity. There are, of course, synergies, and this is something we are still working on, and what I heard before when I was talking to my colleagues here, that the synergy part of companies which had an acquisition is a very, very difficult one, because it's one company, but still two different styles, two different ways of doing things. As well, sharing information, very, very hot topic. For example, Agoda and Booking.com, it's the same umbrella brand under the Priceline Group. We are just living next to each other. Actually, Agoda is one of our biggest competitors in Asia. So that Booking can make the step into Asia, we do need to have a synergy with Agoda. Of course, they don't like it so much, so it's a bit, let's say we're sisters with some fights, and this is definitely happening. So guys, help me out. Who of you knows another structure like this in the online distribution? Not the Priceline Group. Come on, you know that. Let's move maybe your direction, Expedia.
Expedia and Orbis.
Sorry?
Expedia and Orbis.
Yeah? Yes. One more? It's always Expedia here. Yeah, true?
Sorry.
Okay, so let's move on to the next scenario, which would be the integration scenario. One company buys another one, takes know-how, technology, experience, and maybe as well strategic growth out of it, and implements it in the own culture. There is as well in the Priceline Group an example, which happened in 1996. When Priceline bought Booking.com, they had already active hotels in their portfolio, but as we did more or less the same, they decided we integrate this, because active hotels was very strong in Europe, Booking.com was quite strong in Europe. Why having two cost points here? So therefore, active hotels was implemented into Booking.com. Now, if I ask maybe my employees, there are just a few people who say, oh yeah, active hotels, I remember that one. There was something. So this is a very clear integration into a business. And the third one is really creating a new company. Boutique, Priceline Group acquired Boutique around 2 years ago, but Boutique is not existing anymore as it is. We as well had a part of Booking.com working on growth for the future, let's say a bit of investment for the future, to create homepages, individual homepages for hotels. And Boutique was one of the acquisitions we did when we then started to grow Booking Suite, which is a totally new company. It's a sister company of Booking.com under the Priceline Group, of course, but it's not really belonging to Booking.com, and Boutique is not there anymore. So this about merger and acquisition scenarios. Of course, we should go to the next slide and have a look at why do we acquire, why do we merge, what's the reason behind. And therefore, I would like to go through with you the growth model, how does growth happen, and with which techniques can we grow. If we have a look at the core, growing the core competences of a company, we always have a look at things, optimizing things we are already doing. We are optimizing the product we have, and we are optimizing the customer group. So, we are optimizing the product for the same customer group we are already serving, in order to maybe get a bit more of those customers. So this is the way how we work if we focus on our core competencies. Of course, we can grow. Connecting this to acquisitions or mergers, of course, we can grow as well, keeping the core competencies by buying a competitor, for example. This way, we're going to strategically grow the importance, the market share, and the importance and the weight of our company, still focusing on the same product with the same customers. Now there is a second step, which is the adjacent growth, which means we're starting to figure out what's around us. It's not the same product, but it's close. So with this step, companies try to grow with new business, with either new markets, new products, and of course as well, new customers. So going into a different market would definitely count for adjacent growth. Also here, mergers and acquisitions are really important, because maybe there is a company in a different market much better than we are, and therefore we again buy know-how, maybe technology, and of course as well strategic growth. So the last step would be the transformational growth, or also called step out growth. With this one, it's a bit tricky, it's a bit risky, but of course we know the more risk, the more money is involved. With this one, we really invent, we develop, we create something new. With new target groups, and we create a market. Also here, and this is maybe as well an answer to the question of monopoly, and as well, how can startups survive? I do believe that this is the point where startups can really gain. If they are in the niche, if they want to develop, they want to invent, and they really create something new. Of course, there is a risk that at a certain point, those startups really get attractive, and bigger companies buy them. Maybe it's not just buying them, maybe it's also giving them money, because innovation costs. So at a certain point, definitely I do agree with you, it is risky and it is difficult to start up, but I do believe for development and for strategic growth, this is the most important part. And with this, I would like to close my presentation and hand over to the questions.
Okay, first question to you is, to whom belongs in the future the online business? To experts who sell flight only, hotel only, car only, or to generalists who sell from flight to package tours?
Honestly, I believe none of both. I think it's going to be shared still. I do believe that packaging is nothing bad about it, nothing which wouldn't work. I do believe that there is still a lot of potential in there. It might be that certain groups, certain target groups, start to split things, like booking the hotel, booking the flight, booking the car. But I do believe that there will be always travels which are packaged. I also see that certain regions in the world are just not that easy to just do it yourself. So therefore, I believe that we should put, or hotels and resellers, they should maybe put their eggs in more baskets than just one.
Okay. There are many online players in the market. Growing number of online players. What do you think? Too many?
I refer back to what we heard already, because I didn't have a microphone at that moment, but my thought was, come on, competition is great. If you go running and if you want to reach the 10 kilometers, it's better to have one beside you who runs with you, and you don't give up, because as long as this person is not giving up, I'm not going to do it. So I really believe that competition is needed. It's great. Of course there are pain points, and of course it's not nice to lose, and of course we get our daily reports and we see, here is somebody else winning. But this is totally fine, and it's great to have it like that.
So the audience asked for me. I would mention it on the presentation, but my question would be, what is the competition by trying to get higher commissions from the hotels, or is the competition to be more innovative and not so dominant acting on the market? Because we have the fear the competition, well, you're very innovative, you do a really a huge job, also Expedia, but the competition is all what we see on getting higher commission and higher shares from our part of it.
A higher percentage of commission? Okay. I mean, we did not raise commission since a very, very long time. And I do agree, here we are again at the cost of sales. Of course, there are costs involved, also on our side. You know, selling a room is very easy to put it into the extranet, and it's done. But you know, we also have to get this room. We also have to fight for that. We also have to pay, Google, for for this, which is exactly the same. But the problem is that we see that cost of sales is something bigger players work with, but if we break it down, it's a bit harder to show this. And maybe this is something where we can improve, to also show our value better. Because I do see that we are the elephant behind the tree, and this is making people afraid, which is totally normal. But I think this is something we can take with us, and I believe we are working on this already, but it's not going that fast, that we show the value we as well give back to the industry.
I'm going to answer that one too. It's quite interesting when you hear the question, because obviously what swings in the question is the assumption that we're actually raising commissions, right? And I hope there's no investors in the room, even though on the earnings call we keep saying it, but actually our commissions are going down dramatically in the last years. Dramatically, right? So when I started 12 years ago, we were at 25% or nothing. So if you were a hotel and you wanted to work with us, it didn't matter if you were a hotel in Buch, in the center of Salzburg, or in the center of Vienna, or in Obertauern, you had to pay us 25%. That's a bit boring, yeah, because it's a one-fits-all. It's a typical American approach. Like, we're the big guys, you better pay us. Well, that doesn't go down well in Europe. Yeah? So, we then started to talk to the chains, and the chains were the first ones that actually got a better deal for providing us a lot of product in one go. Yeah? Now, I can tell you as well, I'm not going to share any numbers, but the chain commissions, margins, whatever you want to call it, they have gone down significantly, yeah? And at the same time, we managed, with the lower margins, we managed to keep growing and actually adding to their value. Yeah? So, what are the chains doing in turn now? They're actually trying to, move people to their own shops to thank us for our flexibility. So that's kind of my point on that. But the fact is, unit economics is a big topic with us, because the amount of margin that we are taking per room night has gone down tremendously, right? It differs from market to market. Yeah? And actually, I can be open with Eastern Europe because I look after Eastern Europe, so I can tell you. So, let's say 8 years ago, my average margin was about 24.8. Now it's 18.9. Okay? And these guys haven't gotten cheaper. On the contrary. Yeah? Plus, there's new players that cost a lot of money. So I know we own Trivago, but there's TripAdvisor out there, there's Kayak out there, and so on. There are high converting channels, very interesting, but obviously the higher a channel converts, the more our marketing people are willing to pay for them, and they're expensive. And now I come to my point, which is directed exactly at the hotel industry, which is the one thing that the hotel industry keeps thinking is that each room night that we bring is one click. That's not the truth. I can tell you that, especially in developing markets, and I'm not trying to sound like the saint here, but we are sometimes overpaying to build a market. We go into efficiency of 200 to 300%, which means we are paying $3 for a $1 income just to build up the market as such and to build the demand stream. So, what a hotel is actually in effect doing, they're outsourcing that risk 100% to us. So we need to employ people that know how to play the Googles and the Trivagos and the Kayaks and so on. And we play with our cash in order to bring you the room nights. The good thing is hotels can be very comfortable because they will only pay us if they actually get something for it. I pay these guys in 97% of the cases for not getting anything. I'm still paying. Okay? So I just want to make sure that the value is realized. And if the hotel industry thinks they can do it better themselves, then I invite you to the challenge.
Yes. Well, I'm not from the hotel perspective, I'm from the startup perspective, but it's great to see two companies, it's Booking.com and Expedia. They're pretty hard competition, they don't earn money, they have to pay a lot of money to those Google guys. So, as you see the numbers, Booking.com, the EBITDA of Google.com in 2014 was $3.3 billion. So they earn a lot of money. And I don't think we have to go in detail, but for example, if commissions are going up or going down, for Expedia, it's right. They came from a 25% commission, and now in average, as you told, I think 80%?
That's Eastern Europe.
That's Eastern Europe, yeah.
Globally, it's about.
But for example, on the Google perspective, I think there's a step-in commission. I think an average is 15%. But for example, if you want to be on the first side, you have to pay more for that. And some hotels pay up to 35%. So we're not talking about the same level over the years. And the main question, I think, is not the question of commission. The main question is who's competing against who. And if you talk about, for example, the large hotel chains like Accor or Hilton, of course it's another competition fighting Accor against Expedia, for example, than those independent hotels. And in the US, and that might be the problem with Expedia, there are a lot of chains. It's a chain-driven market. But in Europe, it's an independent-driven market. And those little hotels, independent hotels, have no chance to compete against players like Expedia and Booking. Just some words about that market.
Yes, I just can underline this point, and we don't argue that we pay for distribution, because everybody knows distribution costs, and you make really a good job, also Booking makes a good job, But we have the problem, Uwe has outlined it, that you're playing with the distribution costs in the form of you find new innovative forms for preferred partnership or to be on the first site and so on. And it's still the decision of the hotel to participate on this. But what we see that, especially in the small media enterprises, in the market that Austria or Germany and so on, where we have this high market concentration on the online market, and we are speaking, yes, 2 to 3 companies dominating this market, that you are really forcing your business model to get the maximum out of the maximum, and that's okay from your perspective, but from our perspective, we see that's not fair, and in partnerships we need fair treatments and contracts. But I will afterwards I will make my presentation and maybe give more details.
How does the shared economy change the online business?
I believe definitely, and this is something where I see that both companies here on the table, OTAs, have to think and to understand how can the business model match with this. Speaking for booking, we do not see a match there yet. Looking at Airbnb, for example, this is not the way we want to go. We do not want to sell a couch, for example. So for us, the business is really in definitely single units, maybe as well private owned, but not in terms of couch serving. So this is not the way we are going for the moment there, but I do believe that in the future this is definitely something travel industry has to think of, because it's going to get bigger and it's going to be more important. And of course, I mean, experience economy is everywhere. So therefore, as well, sharing economy is a part of it, because we do believe we have different experiences if we spend the time there with local people, with people which know where to go, what to do, instead of just having the touristic experience. And therefore, I do believe this is a way tourism will go, the industry itself. Speaking for booking, we do not have any plans to go that direction so far.
Questions from the auditorium?
Thank you very much. My name is Mr. Torres from ITH, Belzheim. Thank you very much for the opportunity. While growing up in the Maya Mountains with my grandfather in Belize, I learned a lot of valuable lessons. One evening when we went to hunt, I found a nice piece of wood that I brought back home with me. So he asked me, what are you going to do with that wood? And I told him I have no idea, but I liked it because it was different from all the other pieces of wood that were around. One of my neighbors, bigger guy than I was at the time, he found the wood in my yard, took it, and he made a gun out of it. At that point in time, we were watching movies from Sylvester Stallone, Rambo, movies from Arnold Schwarzenegger. So guns were very popular for us to carve out of wood and to play around in the neighborhood, chasing each other. So I complained to my grandfather that my neighbor took the wood, made a gun out of it, and my grandfather told me, why are you complaining? He made something valuable out of something that you could not do. Now, see what he has done, and now you go and make something even better with what he has done. And so I was able to get another piece of wood and I made an even bigger gun than what you made. I colored it and yeah, so I became a little popular then because of my gun, but I learned from him. In terms of what you do and what your competitors do, how have you been learning from them? Or how are they helping you by what they do in comparison to your practices? Thank you.
I think a very important point here is in talking about the competition expedient booking, we are both first movers, so we try to not copy each other, but really innovate and do things by ourselves and bring it on the market. So these are things where we really see, okay, we are still trying to go our way ourselves, let's say, not really stealing stuff from the others, let's say, or stealing ideas. Nevertheless, there are moments and there are things where we both see, okay, this is as well the need of our target market. So if we see that the need is single unit apartments, I am very sure Expedia as well as Booking.com will go after them. If we see that the need is different content and making the page more attractive in terms of content, I am definitely sure this is as well something we would go after Expedia if we see the need. So I do believe that certain things we do copy and learn from each other. Maybe we do it then a bit different, or maybe even take the prototype of one company and make it better, like you did with the gun you made. But in the end, I do see that we are not really constantly running after the ideas of the other. Maybe I can hand over here and you tell your point of view here.
Yeah, so first of all, congratulations. That was one of the best ways I've ever heard a question asked. So congratulations, well done. Well, so it's learning of each other. Absolutely. I think it's obviously we wouldn't copy, because if we copy, we wouldn't fare particularly good here. But it's more around kind of them showing us what's possible. Yeah. So if I look at how much bigger Booking.com in room nights is in Eastern Europe, that keeps me kind of wanting to get closer to that, because they are humongously bigger than we are in Eastern Europe, for example. So it keeps us going, right? Obviously, I then figure out, okay, is it because they have more product, do they have better pricing, are they just showing the product better, and so on, and that's when the watching starts. Yeah? But I think what's very important, besides watching your competition, I think the most important thing is that you watch what your customer wants from you. And if you would ask me what they have done better earlier, was kind of do more A/B testing and just testing a lot in a live environment. We didn't do that particularly well up until about 3 years ago, when we re-platformed both of our two main platforms, which is Expedia and Hotels.com, and only that then enabled us to kind of start doing A/B tests on live traffic. And we do now like 300-400 tests a year. Out of which about a third is conversion neutral, a third is junk, right? And a third is really good, and we actually implement it. So it's two things. You watch your competition of it and see what they do well. They show you kind of what's possible in certain markets. Similar to what, for sure, Booking watches us in the US what's possible, and we watch them here in Europe, and we watch each other in Asia. But it's very important to actually...
losing?
Exactly.
Both,
exactly. But it's very important to kind of look what your customer wants and test. Test, and implement what actually works.
Thanks also for that lovely question. I think I'll add a little bit here, because everybody keeps on pointing at me. So from Google's point of view, I guess, I don't know, maybe 2 is a party, 3 is a crowd. This is just to reinstate as well. We're not actually trying to do exactly what some of our biggest customers are doing. That would be yes, copying the competition, but that's not what we want to do. I read a pretty cool quote a while ago from a guy called Henry Ford, and he said if I would have asked my customers what they want, they would have said a faster horse. So, a guy went out and built cars. So that's what we spend a lot of time doing, trying to be very innovative, and instead of doing what everybody else is doing, come up with something else. Something that I just heard recently from you right now is the need for the customer. Whenever we bring out a product or whatever we try and do, we try and sit down at first and say, okay, so this is the market situation, what is the user actually doing and what is the customer doing? The user for Google is probably a lot of you guys who use Google to search. The customer is our advertisers who pay us, like Expedia, like Booking, and like millions of others. And so some of the product, and I know this is not a product pitch, but some of the products we bring out is when users are trying to book hotel rooms, we bring out products like hotel ads where users can get the same type of information that they can get on some of our customers and some of our partner sites, but they can actually also make booking decisions directly with hotels. And that's what we're trying to do for the hotel industry. We're trying to provide an additional channel that hoteliers can take advantage of that has a different type of commission structure, that they can still take advantage of the reach that Google brings without having to be part of one of the big players in the industry.
Another question?
I would like to bring one topic on the stage, like the pricing. So it's nice to optimize the content, but what do you think about the personal price and the dynamic pricing for the customer? So if you're maybe losing the margins for the hotels, and now is the new way maybe to get the highest margins out of the customer. So also maybe a nice story I tried. I go to Spar, I see the prices. I remember from yesterday the price of the chocolate I like is like this. I get an advertising, maybe in the internet or somewhere, I see the price is lower, but then I go to Spar and I can easily compare the price. If I take my phone now and check a price, I see the hotel and it's the last room, so I have to book now. And then I'm in the hotel and the person next to me is laughing at me, why you paid this price? So what do you think about this whole new personal pricing that I feel is even getting like attention from the mass media? Like last week in ORF, like the economy journal is already taking this, that there is some hint of for the consumers that it's maybe like they don't get the best price then, so they like mislead a little with the pricing with that is happening online. That I get a price that is for you maybe the way to get the highest margins, but it's not the best price, so it's not the best consumer experience then for me.
So the question is if we do personalized pricing? Okay, we don't do it. We don't have personalized prices, so it's not that we say, okay, if you click twice on this hotel, the price is going to change. This is nothing we have implemented. And I honestly have no clue if competition is doing this, but as far as I know, no. I know that the airline industry is quite good at that already, but personalized prices is as well not something we are planning to do.
Hey, so just a comment here. We are not a supplier and we're not an OTA, we're somewhere in the middle. It's important to think about personalized pricing from a hotelier's point of view as well. The user is one person, but the hotelier is the other. And if I'm a hotelier and I can sell a hotel room for $100 to somebody who I know is going to spend $100 at the restaurant and at the bar and then any other sort of additional services, then I may drop my price a little bit because I want him to come because I'm going to earn more money from him. Whereas if I have a room rate of 125, he may never come. So I think it's a very good topic, and the whole conversation about personalization also goes into rates. But you always have to bear in mind there's the user, who's the person paying for the room, but there's also the hotelier who's running a business, and it may be a wise decision for the hotelier to adjust rates based on which users they're trying to attract.
Okay, maybe one last question.
Only a short question. You talked about the different types of mergers and acquisitions. When does Booking buy the first general manager? or Expedia?
I have no clue when we're going to buy. Honestly, I believe that we're going to develop, not buy. But when this is going to be the case, I have no clue. It definitely will happen before 2020. But I have no information if there is already merging or acquisition discussions going on. What I do know is that we are already developing in this direction, but at the moment more on, let's say, project basis. We do have things like hackathons in our company where we do work on certain projects like this, but there is no concrete project team working on this topic.
Yeah, I can confirm that. So first of all, we're not thinking of buying any channel manager or CRS or anything like that. Do we develop in the background in that type of direction? It's less around channel manager or CRS. It's providing. We have a vast amount of data, huge. And the biggest challenge, and you probably have the same challenge we have, is kind of take that data and kind of simplify it in such a way that it helps our hotels to make better decisions. Because the data is just, it's humongous, it's huge, you could go into a lot of detail, but you really want to just, really get it down to the point and then serve that to the hotel. It's a really tough challenge. To make something so big, simple, is one of the biggest arts I think there is. So we are developing in that direction more, right? To kind of help hotels perform better on our marketplace, because our two marketplaces are distinctively different. Yeah, we have different demand streams, different source markets that are strong, all these kind of different booking windows, we even have different products, right? So they're distinctively different, and it's two distinctively different marketplaces that are both successful in their own rights, but kind of being successful on them requires also looking a little bit at data and making it easier for hotels to make decisions. And to the very first question, if we work on personalized pricing, absolutely not. So what we do is we provide, again, a marketplace, but the pricing that the hotel sets the pricing. So the hotel goes into an extranet, and whatever prices you see on the site, it's the hotel entering those. It's not my team sitting there and saying the Golden Hirsch in Salzburg is too expensive during the festival season, so let me drop their price a little bit. But I can tell you the GM who I know from the Golden Hirsch would actually call me immediately and say, what are you doing? So the hotels have full control over their pricing, and we don't do anything with the pricing in the background. But what we are trying to do is to highlight if we feel that the Golden Hirsch is too expensive because its competitors, even though the GM would argue he doesn't have any competitors in Salzburg, but that his competitors are cheaper, or maybe, and that's even more important, maybe more expensive, so he could probably raise his rates as well. So we work in both directions.
One last question.
No. There's a veto.